actual
I can't believe this.
That she heard
Candace is on the money.
Kamala's father,
oh my God,
Cambridge, might be Irish. Was she so crazy to mention that, press? Or would it be so crazy if you guys did your actual job and looked into these things as opposed to constantly trying to obscure things to protect your preferred candidates because you believe she should just be handed this? Now the question is it possible that the woman that we're looking at right there is Kamala's grandmother?
So what do? They create distractions. And that is exactly what Candace Owens and Donald Trump and Byron Donalds and that whole side over there are desperately trying to do. Keep the focus off, really, of two people, and one in particular. The first person they don't want focus on is Donald Harris, who is Kamala Harris's father. And as you see, it is obvious that this man is a black man. It is obvious. That is a brother. That's a black man. That's a black man. And if he is Kamala's father, which he is, then Kamala's black. Okay? And the second person, and most importantly, they really don't want focused on, is Donald Trump. They don't want the country focused on Trump at all. They want to focus on Kamala's race, whether she's black, whether she's white. They want to focus on anything but Donald Trump.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. We got to talk about the Black Democrat Party operatives losing their minds. Full-blown meltdown over Candace Owens doing actual journalism, okay, when it comes to Kamala Harris's family and her alleged lineage, okay, which I think personally is fair game, okay? The mainstream liberal media certainly does not do any type of investigative journalism anymore. So it's up to the people of the internet, right? Alternative media outlets and sources to actually do what the mainstream liberal media refuses to do, because they continuously tell us that any claims that suggest that Kamala Harris is not black, right? She's not black, blackity black, are false and misinformation, okay? Because her dad's Jamaican, okay? Although Jamaican is not a race, it's a nationality, and for whatever reason, the mainstream liberal media doesn't really understand the difference between the two, right? So these people, they never actually provide any real type of facts or evidence that backs up this claim that Kamala Harris is blackity black, right? What they essentially just default to is white supremacy. And what do I mean by that, right? What I mean by that is essentially saying, well, we believe that Kamala Harris has one drop of Negro blood, therefore she must be black. And any other questions about Kamala Harris's race puts you into conspiracy theorist territory. And you must believe the narrative that Kamala Harris is black so that we can promote her as the black candidate to get black people to line up and to vote for her because they want to make her the first black woman president, although we really don't have that much proof that she is, okay? And this is why Candace Owens is doing investigative journalism, because the pro-blackity blacks of the Democrat Party have decided to come after Janet Jackson, okay, a black icon, for questioning whether or not the Indian Democrat Party nominee is actually black, right? And that has upset people in the black community because people are kind of seeing what's happening, right? People are seeing all of these black folks in the liberal media are now coming after Janet Jackson on behalf of Kamala Harris, right? Who we know for certain does not have black or African ancestry dating back to slavery in America, right? The actual United States of America. So we know for a fact she's not a so-called foundational black American. She may have a drop of African blood in her, but that would make her no different than Rachel Dolezal or any random white person that you see on the street, to be quite honest with you. And that matters, right? The reason why it matters is because the Democrats said that it matters, okay? And I want to talk about this because, again, it's hilarious to watch these people now go into mental gymnastics mode, trying to now tell us that race doesn't matter anymore, right? You guys focusing on Kamala Harris's race doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter what race she is. We don't want to talk about this anymore, right? This is the first race conversation that the wokes don't want to have, right? It's very fascinating how that works. So without further ado, let's get into this.
All right, Candace Owens is out here in these streets doing everything she can to carry the water of white supremacists. Let's just be honest about it. Now, there are three things that she's attempting to do. I watched her video last night where she is going through the genealogical record of Kamala Harris, and she's trying to debunk Kamala's claim that she is a black woman, and it is really pathetic. But as an attorney, I know exactly what she's doing, all right? And I'm going to explain to you what she's doing and how we can counter what she's doing. So first of all, she's trying to create a scandal by arguing that Kamala is really white and that she lied about being black when she, for example, lied about the identity of the woman she claims was her grandmother. So she's saying that Kamala's book is ripe with lies. I mean, it's filled with lies because Kamala has the picture of her grandmother and some other pictures in the book. And Candace is saying that she basically lied when she said that this woman, this particular woman, was her grandmother. It is a crazy argument, but that's what she's doing.
Now, notice how this guy didn't go into details about why Candace said what she said, right? He's just saying it as if Candace is making it up. Well, she just made it up out of thin air. This is Looney Tunes, right? When the reason why is because that woman in that picture could not have been Kamala's grandmother, because Kamala's grandmother apparently had died before Kamala Harris was old enough to actually take that picture, right? So in terms of who she says her grandmother is, it doesn't match up when it comes to the timeline in which her grandmother lived, right? Which is something that this guy is completely leaving out of the video, right? He's not explaining why she came up with that theory. He's just pretending as if she just made it up out of thin air and there's no actual research behind it, right? So again, you see the desperation here. They are going to smear Candace as a white supremacist, right? Without actually getting into her arguments and the arguments that she's making, okay? Because they don't have any counter arguments.
She's trying to create a scandal. She's trying to say that there's this big scandal because Kamala wrote a bunch of lies in her book to cover the fact that she is really an Indian white woman. I mean, it is crazy. I mean, you can see with your own eyes that Kamala is black, but...
Can you really? Right? Can you really see with your own eyes that Kamala's black? Because if that was the case, then we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? This wouldn't be a thing. It's because people can't see with their own eyes that she is black. That's why we're having this conversation, okay? Nothing about Kamala Harris, at least when I initially look at her, screams black woman, right? Black, blackity black, okay? No, that's not what's going on here, right? If Kamala Harris didn't tell you that she was black or claimed to be black, nobody would know. People would think, okay, well, it's ambiguous. We really don't know what she is, okay? She could be a mix of a lot of things, okay? But again, these people have now defaulted to, well, if you look black, then you must be black, right? I mean, again, I think a lot of Filipinos and a lot of East Indians, under these people's definition, would classify as black because they look black. I'm telling you guys, they're really getting into the territory where they're making transracialism a thing, right? Transracialism has become mainstream now, right? Because that's what they're using in order to defend Kamala Harris. Well, she's transracial. She looks black. She identifies as black. We can't really prove that she's black, but because she says she's black and she looks black enough, therefore she is black. Again, this is transracialism, right? That's what they're going with.
Candace is out here desperately trying to create a scandal. And the reason why she wants a scandal so bad is because Kamala is basically scandal free. She's been a prosecutor for 30 years, right? And
Kamala Harris is not scandal free. There's been plenty of scandals involving Kamala Harris. Like, for example, apparently she was out here arresting parents for truancy.
I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. When Kamala Harris was the California Attorney General, she had me arrested and prosecuted because my handicapped daughter was sick in the hospital and had missed some days of school.
I spend a majority of my time here at the hospital.
Kamala's horrible policies hurt mothers like me and the Black community.
Yeah, so there are plenty of stories out there that you guys can look up about the scandals that Kamala Harris has been involved in and some of the personal stories that have come out from the individuals that have been victims of Kamala Harris's abuse of power while she was a prosecutor. But to pretend, again, that she's scandal-free, right? There's no corruption, okay? She doesn't abuse power. It's just nonsense.
And she's been elected over and over again. So she is desperate. The Trump team is desperate to create a scandal. So that's number one. Number two, she's trying to redefine Kamala. Kamala knows who she is, and she knows she is a Black woman, and she knows that her forefathers on her father's side are Black people, although there is probably some mixture because, listen, that's the way things were during slavery. Those white men were raping those African women. I have it in my own family. Okay. For example, my great-great-grandfather, my paternal great-great-grandfather is a white man. I mean, a white man, full-blooded white man. So there is in my DNA quite a bit of European blood, quite a bit. But I'm still Black. I am still an African American because we know in this country, one drop of that Black blood will make you Black anyway.
Now, again, what's hilarious about this, again, this guy, again, claims to be an educated lawyer, by the way, right? This guy, look at this. His whole title here, Candace Owens is again promoting white supremacy. But yet this guy basically has explicitly endorsed white supremacist ideology, right? Because this argument is that, well, because Kamala Harris has one drop of Negro blood, or she may have one drop, therefore she's Black, right? Again, this is something that was created by people that this guy would characterize as white supremacists. So these people are essentially adopting that ideology, that line of thinking, in order to basically say that anybody who has one drop of African blood is Black, right? This is what they're saying, okay? But again, with this same logic, you can argue that the average white person that you see on the streets, particularly in the South, is Black, okay? Because there was a study done by a molecular anthropologist in 2002 from Penn State University, in which he found that 30% of whites, people who identify as white, have African ancestry, and that the Black admixture is about 2.3%, okay, which would certainly make these individuals very white looking. So I wonder if this guy right here, okay, Mr. Soul Brother number one, would he classify those white people that have 2.3% Black in them? Would he classify them as Black, right? Should they get access to all of the benefits that Black people get access to, right? What they used to get access to in the form of affirmative action, which has now been rebranded as DEI, right? Should all those white people get those special rights and privileges that Black people are getting, and preferences that they're getting in corporate America, getting all of the accolades associated with being the first Black such and such, right? Because most certainly 2.3% Black is more than one drop, right? It's more than one drop. And I feel like there's a lot of white people who have been robbed of some important accolades associating with being the first Black such and such, because technically, according to guys like this, you're Black if you have one drop of Negro blood, right? Now, again, as conservatives, we all know how silly this conversation is, right? We know that this is silly. We know that this is nonsense. But these liberals didn't realize how silly this conversation was until it backfired. Right now that it's being used against Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris is at the very least 50% Indian, right? She most certainly has some white in her, okay? And in my opinion, I think at most, she might be 1/4% Black, right? At most, okay? At most. And we know that she wasn't raised by her Black father, okay? She was raised in an Indian household, adhering to Indian customs and traditions. She spent a lot of her childhood in India with her Indian family, right? So not only racially speaking, do we know for a fact that Kamala Harris is not mostly black, right? She's not mostly black, okay? And also she wasn't raised in black culture, or she wasn't raised with the black experience. So what makes her black? What makes her black? If she's not mostly black racially, if she wasn't raised in a black household, if she was raised in an Indian household and she was raised culturally Indian, what makes her black? Well, the only thing that these people have is the one drop rule, which is textbook white supremacist ideology, according to these people, right? Which, that's the irony here. This guy is accusing Candace Owens of engaging in white supremacy for doing investigative journalism, while at the same time promoting white supremacist ideology of the one drop rule. Well, I can't refute Candace's claims, but I know that she has one drop. I believe she has one drop of Negro blood. Therefore, she must be black. Well, again, you're the one now promoting the white supremacy, right? Again, it's amazing how these people that claim to be fighting against white supremacy are the same people who seem to have been brainwashed with the ideology that they claim they're fighting against. Isn't that fascinating, right? It's truly fascinating. This is why I love this conversation. This is the one race conversation they don't want to have, because when they have this conversation, it really reveals that these people are everything that they claim they're against, right? You're everything that you claim that you're against. Because they lack so much evidence to back up this idea that Kamala is black. They have defaulted to, well, the white supremacists would say she's black, so therefore she's black. So now you think like them? You agree with them now? You agree with that? That's how you're now classifying people as black? It's fascinating stuff. It really is. But again, all of this, right, is just to demonstrate how silly the race conversation is.
In other words, that's the way people will see you, right? And you do yourself a big favor if that's the way you see yourself.
Well, nobody sees Kamala Harris as a black woman just by looking at her, right? And again, this is why, again, their arguments, every single last one of these arguments in defense of Kamala Harris, they just fall apart because nobody looks at Kamala Harris and says that's a black woman, right? Most people look at Kamala Harris and says, okay, ambiguous, right? So you could say that maybe she has the experience of somebody that's not white, but not white doesn't equal black. And that is the logical fallacy here, because all these same arguments can be used to defend Rachel Dolezal and her claims to be black, right? I think that Rachel Dolezal is owed a huge apology based off the arguments that these people on the left are now making in defense of Kamala Harris.
And so I love my blackness, although I have bona fide, I've done my DNA, I have bona fide white ancestors. So for somebody like Candace Owens or Donald Trump to say, well, you know, Augustus just found out or just began to identify with his blackness, knowing that I've identified as a black person all my life, that's crazy. So she and Trump and that whole GOP thing, that whole MAGA thing, they are desperately trying to redefine Kamala and make Kamala who they want Kamala to be, not who Kamala knows that she is.
Well, Kamala doesn't know who she is. Kamala is who she needs to be in the moment, right? And that's the whole criticism behind Kamala Harris, right? That is the main criticisms of Kamala. That's why people are questioning her, is because it seems to me that her whole life has been fake, right? And that she flip-flops on policies and what she believes and who she is based off who she's trying to appeal to, who she's trying to take advantage of in order to get ahead, like a typical politician. And that's what the heart of all of this is about. It's about Kamala Harris being fake. It's about Kamala Harris being phony. If you can't believe Kamala Harris when it comes to her identity and her history and her ancestry, can you believe anything that comes out of her mouth? Can you believe anything about her at all? And that's what terrifies these people. And that's why now all of a sudden, this is the first race conversation they don't want to have. Because typically they're obsessed with this type of stuff, right? They want to throw it in your face. Kamala's a black woman. You got to line up and vote for her so you can make history. Okay, well, I don't believe she's actually black. Oh, no. Why is race so important? Why are you talking about her race? Race should not be that important. Okay, but you guys made her whole appeal about race. But when people question her race and say, well, I don't think she's black, so therefore that's not a valid reason for me to vote for her, Now, all of a sudden, again, they want to shut it down. They want to say it's hateful, it's bigoted, it's misinformation. It really is fascinating. This is why I try to tell you guys all the time about these liberals, right? These progressives. Give them what they want, right? The best way to red pill these people, just give them what they want. Oh, you want to have that race conversation? Okay, let's have that race conversation. Now, all of a sudden, nah, we don't want to have it, right? We're good. Race shouldn't matter, right? You should be voting for Kamala based off her character, her policies, you know, all this other stuff, things that have nothing to do with race. That's what actually really matters, right? Now, all of a sudden, that's what it's about. But before, it was all about her race, okay? It was all about her being a so-called black woman. Now that that's been challenged, now they want to say, well, race don't matter. It really is. It's stunning. It really is. But again, full-blown panic here, right? Why they in full-blown panic is because this whole race conversation has exposed Kamala Harris as fake and phony, and that's what this really is about. Nobody really gives a damn about whether or not she's black. What people give a damn about is whether or not she is faking her identity for her own political gain. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.